When The Green Mile arrived in theaters, audiences thought they were watching a powerful prison drama with a touch of the supernatural. What they didn't realize was that behind the tears, the miracles, and the unforgettable ending, there were layers of meaning even the most devoted fans completely missed. Now, years later, the cast is finally opening up, revealing surprising insights from Tom Hanks about his character's hidden spiritual journey, stunning behind-the-scenes truths about Michael Clarke Duncan's transformation into John Coffey, and deleted ideas that could have changed the film's message entirely. So what was really happening on death row, and how much of The Green Mile went right past us the first time? Here are things you didn't know about The Green Mile. Fact 1. The film that almost wasn't. The Green Mile almost never reached theaters. After The Shawshank Redemption was initially labeled a box office disappointment, director Frank Darabont hesitated to adapt yet another prison story from Stephen King. Studios were skeptical too, doubting audiences would commit to a nearly 3-hour death row drama. Everything changed when Tom Hanks came on board. Fresh off Forrest Gump and Saving Private Ryan, his involvement finally convinced studios to take the risk, though they still pushed hard to shorten the film. Darabont refused. He knew the story needed time to breathe, to let its characters and emotions fully land. That decision was a gamble, but it paid off. By protecting the film's length and depth, Darabont helped create one of the most emotionally powerful stories Hollywood has ever told, proof that sometimes refusing to compromise makes all the difference, the characters behind the characters. What many viewers don't realize is that the cast of The Green Mile created detailed backstories for their characters, adding layers that weren't explicitly mentioned in the script, but deeply influenced every performance. Tom Hanks explained that he imagined Paul Edgecombe as a man who had seen combat in World War I. This backstory helped shape Paul's fundamental decency and his shocked response to Percy Wetmore's cruelty, reminding him of the senseless violence he had witnessed in the war. Michael Clarke Duncan immersed himself in research to embody John Coffey. He visited hospitals to study how people in need of care moved and interacted with the world. This helped Duncan portray Coffey with a childlike vulnerability in his cell and a more controlled, powerful presence during moments of healing, like when he cures Paul's infection. Meanwhile, Doug Hutchison based his portrayal of Percy Wetmore's sadism on a childhood bully, infusing the character with a disturbing authenticity that makes his cruelty feel all too real. These behind-the-scenes insights show how the actors added personal depth to their roles, turning The Green Mile from a supernatural drama into a deeply human and emotionally resonant story. The prison that made the mile. One key element in creating the authentic atmosphere of The Green Mile was the decision to build the entire death row set from scratch. Unlike The Shawshank Redemption, which filmed in a real prison, The Green Mile required a custom environment that matched the story's needs. Terrence Marsh, who had won Oscars for Dr. Zhivago and Oliver, designed the set with incredible historical accuracy. The green linoleum that gives the mile its name was the exact shade used in Southern prisons at the time. Even the wiring and light fixtures were period-appropriate. David Morse, who played Brutus Brutal Howell, explained how the set influenced their performances. The Green Mile corridor was designed to create mounting dread as you walk down it. The cells got darker and the lighting more ominous. The set wasn't just a backdrop, it became a character. The production even built a fully functional electric chair, Old Sparky, that could simulate executions with terrifying realism. Special effects coordinator Charles Gibson designed it with the ability to create controlled smoke and lighting, making the execution scenes disturbingly real. Sam Rockwell, who played Wild Bill Wharton, said the execution scenes created a tense atmosphere on set. For Dell's botched execution, multiple cameras were used to capture the moment in as few takes as possible due to the high cost and emotional toll of the prosthetic effects and pyrotechnics. To help the actors fully internalize their roles, Frank Darabont allowed them to experience the cell block in complete silence before filming. For an entire afternoon, they took their positions, guards at their posts, prisoners in their cells, and simply existed in the space without speaking, which deepened their connection to the harsh reality of prison life. The hidden meanings most fans never catch. The Green Mile is packed with layers of symbolism that many viewers, even dedicated fans, might miss during their first few watches. Over the years, the cast and crew have shared insights into these hidden meanings that enrich the story. One recurring motif is the color green, which appears whenever death is near. It's not just the linoleum on the mile. Green shows up in the curtains of the execution chamber, in the sponge meant to be soaked in brine, and even in the reflection in Wild Bill's eyes when he first arrives. This subtle visual cue appears throughout the film, registering mostly on a subconscious level for most viewers. The healing scenes carry deeper significance, too. When John Coffey heals Paul's infection or Melinda Moore's brain tumor, it's about more than physical recovery. Paul starts questioning his role in executions, while Melinda not only regains her health but also her innocence, speaking to John like a child recognizing another child. John isn't just healing bodies, he's healing souls. The film also has numerous biblical references that deepen its themes. When John says, "I'm tired, boss," tired of being on the road, lonely as a sparrow in the rain, it echoes Psalm 102. I am like a desert owl, like an owl among the ruins. I have become like a bird, alone on a roof. This connection elevates John from a magical figure to one with a Christ-like suffering, abandoned and weary. With these insights, even the smallest moments take on profound meaning. When the guards remove John's chains during the execution, it visually mirrors Christ being taken down from the cross. And when Paul asks what he should do, and John simply replies, "You be still," it echoes biblical themes of surrender and divine will. Weather as storytelling. One of the most subtle yet powerful techniques in The Green Mile is how it uses weather to mirror the emotional journey of its characters. The weather outside the prison often reflects what's happening inside. For instance, on the night of Dell's botched execution, a violent thunderstorm rages. While the day John confesses his truth to Paul, the air is unnaturally still and quiet. In stark contrast, John's execution takes place on a calm, moonlit night, serene and beautiful, matching the peace he has found. The most significant shift in weather comes in the epilogue, when Paul visits John Coffey's grave. For the first time in the film, we see a genuinely sunny day. This cemetery scene is the only one with clear, beautiful weather. All other outdoor scenes are clouded, rainy, or set at night. The sun only truly shines once Paul has carried the weight of his story for decades and finally lets it go. The mouse, more than meets the eye. One of the most beloved elements of The Green Mile is Mr. Jingles, the seemingly immortal mouse that becomes Edouard Delacroix's companion. But this tiny creature has a deeper purpose than just providing comic relief. In fact, Mr. Jingles acts as the film's moral compass. Pay attention to who shows kindness to him and who doesn't. It's the first glimpse we get of each character's true nature. Dell, despite his past, treats the mouse gently, while Percy tries to kill it just for sport. Paul initially wants to ignore it, but ultimately chooses to protect it, a decision that foreshadows his later choice to stand up for John Coffey. Mr. Jingles symbolizes the central question of the film. Do the vulnerable deserve protection, even at a personal cost? Each character answers this with their treatment of the mouse before they face the same choice regarding John Coffey. This subtle symbolism adds weight to the epilogue, where we learn Mr. Jingles lives far beyond a normal mouse's lifespan, much like Paul, who carries the blessing and curse of Coffey's touch, a reminder of supernatural grace in an otherwise ordinary world. Character connections and motivations. For many viewers, John Coffey's confession about his fear of the dark before his execution is the emotional peak of The Green Mile. "I was afraid of the dark." This moment hits so hard because it humanizes John. Despite his supernatural powers, he expresses a very relatable fear, creating a powerful emotional connection with the audience. It also deepens the significance of the guard's final act of mercy, choosing not to place the hood over his face, showing compassion toward a man terrified of the dark. The dynamic between Percy and Wild Bill is also crucial. They represent two different types of evil. Percy embodies institutional cruelty, while Wild Bill represents chaotic violence. The moment Wild Bill grabs Percy creates an important link between the two antagonists. The karmic justice that follows, Percy's eventual descent into madness due to the evil Wild Bill instilled in John Coffey, offers a poetic resolution to their storylines. Although studio executives pushed to minimize Percy's role, Frank Darabont knew the film needed this bureaucratic evil to balance the narrative. Without showing how systems protect people like Percy while condemning those like John Coffey, the emotional and moral weight of the execution wouldn't land as powerfully. The ending that almost wasn't. One of the biggest revelations about The Green Mile's production is that it almost had a completely different ending. The emotional epilogue showing an older Paul Edgecombe was nearly cut, with studio executives arguing it was unnecessary. However, Frank Darabont fought for it because the film isn't just about death, it's about living with the consequences of our choices. Interestingly, the scenes with older Paul were filmed first, setting the emotional tone of the entire movie. They framed the story through memory and regret, highlighting that The Green Mile isn't just about a magical healing, but about the moral cost of participating in evil, whether intentionally or not. While the film's 3-hour runtime allowed Darabont to include most of his vision, several scenes were left on the cutting room floor. One was a sequence showing Paul's first day on the job at Cold Mountain Penitentiary, which would have emphasized his initial idealism and his growing realization of the harsh reality of his job. Another deleted scene involved more of Paul's wife, Jan, played by Bonnie Hunt, showing how Paul's experiences on the mile affected their relationship. These missing pieces would have added depth to the film, offering alternate narrative paths and exploring aspects of the characters that weren't fully developed in the final cut. The real miracle. While most viewers see John Coffey's healing power as the film's primary miracle, there's a deeper interpretation. The real miracle lies in the moral awakening John sparks in Paul and the other guards. These men start as part of a killing machine, but by the end, they're willing to risk everything to save an innocent man. John, too, experiences his own miracle. He finds people who treat him with dignity and believe in his innocence. After a lifetime of fear, he finally experiences compassion. This layered perspective explains why the film resonates so deeply. It's about the miracle of moral awakening in ordinary people and the ability to recognize injustice. Michael Clarke Duncan, from Bodyguard to Oscar nominee. Michael Clarke Duncan's journey to playing John Coffey in The Green Mile is one of Hollywood's most remarkable transformations. From celebrity bodyguard to Academy Award nominee in just a few years, his rise was nothing short of extraordinary. Before The Green Mile, Duncan's life was far from the glitz and glamour of red carpets. Standing 6 feet 5 inches and weighing nearly 300 pounds, he worked as a ditch digger, bouncer, and bodyguard for celebrities like Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. His acting resume consisted mostly of roles as bouncers or intimidating background characters. The casting of John Coffey was a monumental challenge, requiring not just physical presence, but the ability to convey both childlike innocence and wisdom. Duncan almost didn't audition for the role. His manager had to convince him, as Duncan doubted his ability to tackle such a complex character. The audition became legendary. Nervous and struggling with his lines, Duncan stunned everyone when he delivered Coffey's iconic, "I'm tired of people being ugly to each other" monologue. Director Frank Darabont knew right then they had found their John Coffey. To prepare for the role, Duncan worked with acting coach Larry Moss, studying people in need of care, observing children, and developing a gentler physicality than his previous roles required. On set, Tom Hanks became an impromptu mentor, guiding Duncan through his first major film role. When the film was released, Duncan's performance earned critical acclaim and Academy Award and Golden Globe nominations for Best Supporting Actor, a rare feat for someone with such little prior acting experience. While he lost the Oscar to Michael Caine, the nomination propelled his career, leading to major roles in films like The Whole Nine Yards, Planet of the Apes, The Scorpion King, and Daredevil, ensuring he'd never again play background roles. The film's second life, The Green Mile, had a solid but not blockbuster box office performance. Released in December 1999, it earned $136.8 million domestically, well above its $60 million budget, but still not the huge numbers expected from a Tom Hanks film. The film found its true audience through home video and cable. It became one of those movies people want to share with others once they discover it. Through word of mouth, it became a cable favorite and a consistent DVD bestseller. The Green Mile is a film about patience, and it needed patience from its viewers. It's not a movie for casual watching. It demands emotional investment. While theatergoers might not have been looking for that, audiences at home were more open to being vulnerable. By 2020, the film had firmly cemented its place as a modern American classic, often appearing on lists of the most emotionally impactful films ever made.